Yo, this is Teresa Weatherspoon, better known as Teaspoon, and you're watching Real Fans, Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe you can.
This is Real Fans, Real Talk. Real fans, real talk. We as real as you thought. Real fans.
What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. I might as well start saying this is playoff edition now because we in the thick of things right now. This is playoff basketball. We're gonna be doing a lot of talking about that. Plus, it's a big night for the ladies tonight as well. The WNBA draft is going down. We're gonna talk a little bit about that while we're on the air and as the picks come in. I think we all kind of know who the number one is gonna be, but it's a lot more picks that we got to speak about. And NFL draft is looming. It's coming. It's almost here. So we got a lot of things that we're gonna be talking about. I see the comments coming in. Before we get into all of that, though, let me introduce my co-host and my brother, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games. What's going on, man?
What's really good, bro? You already know what time it is. We got playoff basketball. Like you said, WNBA draft is actually starting in the next few minutes. NFL draft is next week. Whatever the people want to get into, but I know it's going to be a lot of NBA talk, especially after we saw, probably the game of the month. I don't want to be over dramatic, call it the game of the year, but Clippers Warriors definitely was the game of the month, and already felt like playoff basketball because of what was implicated with that.
And then let's get to it because the play-in tournament begins in 2 days with the Warriors and the Grizzlies slated to go at it, and then I believe the other matchup is the Hawks. Will be playing on the Eastern Conference as well. But yeah, it's playoff basketball time. I'm just gonna jump right in. Who is your pick to come out of the play-in tournament in both the East and the West? Who takes the 7th and 8th seed?
So the 7th seed goes down tomorrow. You got Hawks Magic, which is crazy because the Magic actually won their division and they still ended up in a play-in game. But that's why I like the way the NBA has this structure. Just because you win your division does not guarantee you a top 3 seed. It still goes by overall record, and they have the 7th best record. So they host tomorrow. I expect them to beat the Hawks. The Hawks have been in shambles as of late. A lot of injuries. The injury to Jalen Johnson really changed things for the Hawks because early in the year they were looking like a potential top 6 team. Now they're fighting for their lives. Orlando at home. Paolo's been playing well. So I expect Orlando to win tomorrow. Grizzlies, Warriors. I got the Warriors. I think on paper, everyone has the Warriors to win. You would expect Steph to win that game. Steph has played well in play-in games, Trip. But Steph Curry's 0-3 in NBA play-in tournament games. So there's that factor in there as well, where for the Warriors, obviously winning gives them an opportunity to play the Rockets, which I think is a matchup that they could be able to take advantage of because they're a veteran team. They don't want to fall to 8 and have to face that powerful Oklahoma City team. So I'm going to go Warriors and Magic, and I think both home teams win tomorrow in a play-in game.
Yeah, I agree. I think Paolo is going to step Paolo's going to step his game up to the next level and get Orlando into that spot. And I mean, it's Golden State, man. When you have the greatest shooter that God has ever put on this planet in Wardell Stephen Curry, man, it's just something special over there. I think they I think they get the dub. And and there was a comment that we're gonna get to a little bit. Let me pull it up on the screen now. In regards to Steve Kerr, shout out to Ray. Why Steve Kerr be on some weird ish? How do you not play Kuminga at all versus the Clippers? He always do ish like that. Well, there could be a method to his madness because if I'm being honest, if I'm a veteran team like Golden State, I probably want to go up against Houston in the first round as opposed to going up against the Lakers in the first round, which I think would be a tougher series for them. Plus, sometimes coaches like to, shake things up a little bit. They don't want to give you everything all at once. And you know what I mean, show off everything or the whole game plan. So but I do think again, I think that Golden State does go on to get the 7th seed, and I believe Golden State beats Houston in the first round.
It'll be an interesting matchup. Shout out to Ray. I want to say though, we're always very critical. And when I say we, I mean everybody. It's very critical of Steve Kerr as if this man hasn't won 4 NBA finals, as if this man didn't just lead the Olympic team to an undefeated gold medal. If the Warriors don't blow the lead in regulation yesterday, if Draymond Green doesn't miss a point-blank layup, we're not questioning Steve Kerr's method. As you said, we're not questioning whatever his method to his madness is. No disrespect to Jonathan Kuminga. I don't think Kuminga would have had as much of an impact as people may think in that Clippers game. It was a bad matchup for Kuminga. Ultimately, Steve Kerr went with the guys he felt most comfortable with because he knew they were going to have to outgun the Clippers. If you watched that game, I'm sure you guys did, the Warriors couldn't get any stops. So I don't know if Kuminga changes that for them. I don't think Kuminga, and if you put Kuminga on the floor, tell me who you're taking off because they still need the spacing. With Draymond and Jimmy Butler, 2 guys who really don't shoot the 3-ball well, you can't add a 3rd guy into the mix who can't shoot. You got to try to keep some sort of spacing on the floor. That's why you see Podzinski getting so many minutes. That's why you see Buddy Hield getting so many minutes as well. And Moody was getting minutes because Moody has been playing very well defensively for them. So I don't think we should be critical of Steve Kerr because, again, if Draymond does not miss a point-blank layup, we're probably having a different conversation today.
Yeah, we was it the Monday morning quarterback? Like, yeah, like this was a very close game that could have went either way. And again, like let's give Steve Kerr his some grace. Let's give him the respect that he's earned as one of the best head coaches in basketball today. I mean, he's only, like you said, Eric, he's only a 4-time NBA champion. He only just came off of running the table at the Olympics, and some an Olympics that, and I think you would agree to this, is probably the most competitive Olympics as far as the field goals, with the abundance of NBA players spread out now throughout the world. So let's give Steve Kerr some grace. He knows what he's doing. He's been a winning coach for a long time. He's won as a player. You know what I mean? And he's definitely one of the better coaches that we have in the NBA. So let's give him a little bit of grace. We'll see. Again, strategy is strategy, man. You just let's let him get his grace. And then if things don't work out, then all right. But I do believe that they do get the 7th seed, and I feel like they can beat Houston in the series. And no disrespect to Houston, but there's the playoff experience. I mean, I know you got Van Fleet out there, but the rest of those guys are green. They're very young. They haven't been to the playoffs. Houston is not a team that's they want to rebuild after the Harden years. So they're very young, and I do think Steph Curry, even in that game against the Clippers, Steph Curry was like, you just like, damn, how does he keep doing this every year? He's still doing this. I was watching that game, and I'm just sitting there like, you know what? He done did this to my team mad times, and it still hurt. We're not even doing it to my team. And it's just like, yo, how the heck does he continue to do this? Like, I don't know. I can't explain it, but. Again, this is Golden State. We're talking about a veteran team who, I think they'll be just fine going into the playoffs. And, so give Steve Kerr his grace.
I think, yeah, if they win tomorrow night, then all is right for the Warriors. Because as you mentioned, they're playing an inexperienced Rockets team who, outside of Fred VanVleet, outside of Steven Adams, they don't have many guys with any type of playoff experience. So, and Ime Udoka, who's a great head coach, again, he can't just implement his knowledge in the playoffs into his players. His players still got to go through it and experience it for themselves. So
he probably got the most experience.
Right. Well, him and Van Fleet. Remember, Van Fleet was on the Toronto team that won a finals, and Van Fleet was on a couple Toronto teams that made the playoffs. So, outside of those guys, there's nobody there in that locker room who can say, "Hey, I've been through this before, and I know what it takes to win a playoff round." So, if you're the Warriors, you're fine. But it comes down to tomorrow. If they win tomorrow, then great. It's a great matchup for them against an inexperienced team in the first round, and they would get about 5 days of rest because if they win tomorrow, they probably don't have to play again until Sunday, so they still get the rest necessary. My only concern with Houston, I think that gets overlooked though, is Houston is a very athletic team. They got some good perimeter guys that they can throw at Steph to make his job a little more difficult. Steph Curry's still going to be Steph Curry regardless. He's going to get his regardless, but you got to make him work as much as possible for it. And then you got Şengün, who's an all-star this year, and you saw the way Zubac killed them in the paint yesterday. Şengün can have his way against this team as well because the Warriors have no interior presence. So those could be the two things that would concern me. But ultimately, as you mentioned, if I'm the Warriors, would I have rather played the Lakers and been the 6th seed against the 3 seed, or would I have rather played Houston as the 7th seed? And I think I would rather play Houston.
Yeah. So I agree. I think Draymond and Jimmy are going to make this a very physical series, and I want to see how Houston can do under those conditions, because now we're talking about a team, of guys. Jimmy Butler has been to a couple of NBA finals. Obviously, we know, Draymond and Steph and these guys have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, 3-4 times over at this point. So I want to see how Houston does when Draymond is up in your face, when Jimmy is hounding you court to court from in line to in line. I want to see how Houston does. I don't think they can stand up to that in the playoffs, but we will see. Let me go to shout out to Ron Charles. Oh, you know what? Shout out to Scoop Hoop and Imani. They was on the check-in with me today, making sure we was going live today. So I just want to show them some love. Ron says NBA season wrapped up. Who's your MVP? All NBA first team, rookie of the year, most improved. Well, MVP. I mean, we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks. And I believe Eric, you're still the same on this one as Shea. I think he finally gets his first NBA MVP. As far as all NBA goes, I would say Shea. Obviously, I gotta throw Joker in there. I'm gonna throw Giannis in there. I'm gonna throw Jason Tatum in there, and I guess I'll give that spot to Donovan Mitchell. I gotta give a little respect to Cleveland and what they've been able to do in the Eastern Conference and the commanding lead that they've had on first place, pretty much the entirety of the season. So I want to put some respect on Donovan Mitchell as the leader in Cleveland. So that's my All NBA team. Damn, rookie of the year is so difficult because what's the kid from the Spurs? Eric.
Stephon Castle.
There you go. I'm gonna go with Stephon Castle for rookie of the year. And most improved. He's probably not going to get most improved, but I'm gonna go with my man AR. Austin Reeves. Because
I think Austin
Reeves probably not gonna get it. I just say probably not gonna get it, but I'm saying he has stepped his game up the second half of the season to form a formidable big three for the Lakers. But I know he's probably not gonna get it, but that's me. But who you got, Eric?
First team is very similar to what you said. It got to be Shea. I guess Donovan Mitchell, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful. I just think that second guard is so tough to pick because Brunson had a great year. Mm-hmm. Steph had a great year. At forward, I'm probably going Tatum, Giannis with Joker as your center. That would be my 5. Tatum, Giannis, Joker. I'll go Mitchell and Shea. But I think, like I said, that second guard spot is going to be very, very tough to pick. Rookie of the year, Stephon Castle. And we were joking about it last week when we had H on the show. Shout out to H2O about like the lack of coverage for this rookie class. But I think Stephon Castle has been the most consistent rookie start to finish this year. And most improved, I don't think it's Austin Reeves. I think his game has been his game. Maybe Cade Cunningham, because Cade probably is going to be a potential third-team All-NBA guy this year.
Yeah.
But I hate to even put him in that category because you're talking about a guy who was number 1 overall when he got drafted. So you expect, big things from him. But I just think that the progression that he's taken, and obviously you see how well his team has played this year as well because of his progression, you got to put him in that conversation. So I think Cade probably wins most improved player for me.
Yeah. So here's my thing. I wouldn't mind Jalen Brunson being on the first team, but I think what's gonna hurt him is the injury towards the end of the season and him missing, them 2.5 weeks. That's why I give the edge to Donovan Mitchell. But I'm not mad if Jalen Brunson gets it because I said he would be in that range this season anyway. So I'm not mad at that. But as far as the voters go, I think that injury may hurt Jalen Brunson from being on the first team, but I think he definitely lands on second team All NBA.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be tough because if you don't put Donovan, you'll say the team that had the second best record in the NBA has nobody who's All NBA first team. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that just sounds crazy.
Which sounds crazy. So, like I said, I get it. I understand it. Brunson, I think, will be up for other opportunities. Like I said, second All NBA team. You're going to have Brunson, who's up for the Clutch Player of the Year award. So there's other opportunities for Brunson to be recognized for the type of season he had as well.
Yeah. Let me just throw Scoop run back. Scoop said, let's make sure the Warriors win now. Memphis not just playing for they better win because they have had trouble now in the dealing with the playing tournament. But I think they do win this game. And they've actually had a little back and forth with the Warriors and Memphis in the past.
Yeah, they got history. Yeah.
So I'm not mad. That's actually going to be an exciting playing game. So I'm actually really looking forward to that. Hold on, let me see what else we got for the NBA. Let me go back to let me just throw Ron's comment up here. He said his finals pick is Celtics versus Thunder. I mean, that's a very viable choice. I can't even be mad at that because they are two of the teams that are projected to make the finals. Obviously, OKC with the first in the West, Boston finishing second, but I think Boston probably the most complete team right now. Even though they're in second place, I think they should be the favorites to come out of the East and get to the finals. So I'm not even mad at that. Is that who you picked, Eric, to be in the finals?
That's my initial feeling on it, but I'm starting to feel like we're not going to get that. Very, very few times in the history of the NBA do we get the matchup we want, and Celtics Thunder probably would be the matchup we want the most, right? The team that's been the best all year against the defending champs who are trying to repeat. But we know historically something always gets in the way. And the more and more I keep looking at the East bracket, I feel like there's somebody there somewhere in that 3, 4, 5 range. Shout out to Omani. somewhere in that 3, 4, 5 range, there's going to be a team that could potentially upset either the Celtics or the Cavaliers and then throw everything out of whack in the East. So I would like Celtics Thunder, but I think there's going to be some sort of upset.
Who's the team you think can upset the Celtics in the East?
If the Celtics aren't healthy, I think the Knick matchup or the Pacer matchup is a tough one for them. If Porzingis specifically, we know Jaylen Brown is dealing with a little bit of an injury right now as well. Yeah. But if Porzingis is also hurt, I think those matchups change for them because the Celtics' greatest strength is their ability to spread you out, shoot the three from all 5 positions. Without Porzingis, you lose that a little bit because Al Horford isn't the same offensive threat. And then now you're forced to play guys. We talked about this last year in the finals when even though they beat Dallas in 5, there was moments where offensively they struggled when they didn't have Porzingis on the floor. Mm-hmm. So Porzingis and Jaylen Brown have to be healthy because that's what makes the Celtics special to me.
Yeah, shout out to Imani. I don't know about this, but Imani says her finals is Warriors. If they get out the play-in, Warriors 0-3 in the playing games, but Celtics versus Warriors for me, which would be a rematch. What was that? 3 years ago now? When the Warriors won. Even though, I mean, if the Celtics team is healthy, I think they're completely. Golden State will be completely outmatched, and I think that series would be over really quickly. Like I don't know if that series goes past 5. I mean, I'll give you 6 just because I want to put some respect on Steph Curry's name, but I don't know if that series goes past 5 if that was to actually happen. But I don't think the Warriors make it out of the second round of the playoffs. But I digress. Eric, do you think the Warriors? I'll say this: over under 40% chance the Warriors make it out of the Western Conference.
Under, way under. If we had the list of best teams in the West, obviously we start with OKC, and then if you go down the line, I think the Clippers are better than the Warriors. I think the Nuggets are better than the Warriors. I think Lakers Warriors is kind of a toss up because they're very similar. But I would probably give the Lakers the advantage. Yeah, I would give Lakers the advantage because of Luka, because of just how dynamic he's always been in the playoffs. The problem is if they win, Golden State gets past that first round, they're looking at a Lakers Timberwolves second round matchup. But I think both those teams are better than the Warriors. Especially, I think that Timberwolves matchup would be a nightmare for the Warriors because the Warriors have absolutely no interior presence. Whereas with the Timberwolves, obviously we know about Rudy. Even if you get Rudy off the court, Naz Reid and Julius Randle, I think would be a lot for them to have to deal with as well. So I'm not a big fan of the Warriors coming out of the West.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't see the Warriors making out the second round. And respectfully, because they've been playing great, especially after the Jimmy Butler trade. I really love Jimmy Butler for Golden State, but I do wish they did have some interior presence, and they just don't have that. So I don't know about getting out the second round, but I do think they can beat Houston. They get to get the 7th overall, but I think that's where it stops in the second round. Let me go back up to the. Okay, hold on. Shout out to Ray. He wants to know who are the top 5 Timberwolves players of all time to this point. Obviously, I think number 1, and I don't think there should be a debate right now. I got to go to the big ticket, Kevin Garnett. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's the only MVP that Minnesota has had.
That is correct.
Okay,
that is correct.
So Kevin Garnett would be 1. I'm gonna put Kevin Love in that top 5 because he his numbers when he played for Minnesota. We were talking about him as the best power forward in the league. It was like him and Blake at one point were like going back and forth at it, but the numbers wise, what Kevin Love was doing in Minnesota, nothing short of spectacular. So I'll go those 2. I'm gonna put Towns in there in the top 5. It's crazy because these are my top 5 is probably mostly newer guys. I've obviously Ant-Man I gotta put Ant-Man in there. I know he hasn't even been in the league close to the amount of time that these guys has, but what he's done, while being in the league, you can't deny that. I'm gonna go New York on my 5 spot. I'm gonna put Stephon Marbury up in there at number 5. Who you got?
So you said Steph, Ant-Man, Cat, KG, Kevin Love. I agree with that completely. Maybe an honorable mention would be Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was good while he was there, and he set some early records in his career. Outside of that, I don't think there's anybody who was there long enough or had any type of major impact as a Minnesota Timberwolves. So I would agree. KG, Kevin Love, Cat, Ant-Man, and Steph Marbury.
Yeah, there you go. Hold on. I see Ron. I like this one. Can Ant-Man cause Lakers problems? Anthony Edwards can cause anybody problems. Let's just get that out the way right now. The problem is going to be the Lakers. If Luka and Braun get going, what they going to be able to do with Luka and Braun both clicking, especially now that you don't really have the Twin Towers. Like I like if we're talking about the Minnesota team from last year, I think the Lakers might be in some trouble with Towns and Gobert with them having the Twin Towers and then with Ant-Man playing the way we know he's going to play. But I think Ant-Man is going to play well, but ultimately, and I've been waiting to say this one, Eric, in the words of you can get Ant-Man, you can get the Slant Man, you can get the Shimmer Man. Lakers in 5. That's what it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's going to cause the Lakers problems, though. Make no mistake about it. Lakers, the trade-off. Well, not only that, though, but the trade-off in getting Luka is that defensively on the perimeter, the Lakers are worse than they once were. So Ant is going to get his regardless. For me, the bigger issue in this series for the Lakers are going to play small. We know they're going to play small. Can the Lakers rebound well enough? to win these games, because I think that's going to be the key in this series. Whoever can dominate the boards is going to win. We know the Lakers got a lot of offensive playmaking with Braun, with Luka, and even some from Austin Reeves. And we know that Minnesota is going to try to play bully ball, right? They're going to try to space you out with Anthony Edwards and with DiVincenzo, but a majority of what Julius Randle is going to do is in the paint. A majority of what Naz Reid is going to do is in the paint. And Rudy Gobert's impact is solely predicated on what he can do in the paint and how he can protect the paint. So whoever I think is winning the boards and controlling that area is going to win this series. It's going to be a very, very close series. And I don't think the seedings do it justice, because Minnesota to me is better than a normal 6 seed. And so because we get the matchup, people will look at it and say, oh, it's a 3-6. But Minnesota was just in the Western Conference Finals last year. And you know Jaden McDaniels is one of the elite perimeter defenders in the game as well. So who they put him on is going to be a big factor in the series as well, because Luka torched him last year in the Western Conference Finals. And I don't think Jaden McDaniels is strong enough to hang with LeBron. We know he's not strong enough to hang with LeBron. But if he can eliminate Austin Reeves as a third option and really make Luka and Braun have to carry the Lakers, that also makes an interesting dynamic as well. So it's going to be a very, very good series. Ant-Man is going to give him some trouble, though.
Yeah, he is. I do believe that as well. Hold on, let me pull up this next comment. Ron says, how was Andrew Wiggins there? I'm sure he got more stats than Marbury, right? Well, Wiggins was in Minnesota 5 years, or maybe like 5.5 before.
I was thinking it was closer to 7, but it might have been 5, yeah.
Yeah, Steph was there for about 3. But Steph was also averaging like 17 and 9 while he was playing for Minnesota. Low key, he was kind of beasting out there. Him and KG was a hell of a 1-2 punch. They just didn't have the rest of the pieces around them to really make a legitimate playoff push. But I ain't mad at 17 and 9. That's, you know. So and Wiggins, I mean, outside of Wiggins, you know, was scoring. You know, he had a couple of years where he was over 20 points for Minnesota, but outside of scoring, that was pretty much it. He didn't really come into his own until he got to Golden State. That's when it was like, oh, is this what we were supposed to be seeing all this time in Minnesota? Because that's when he really was balling out, when he got to Golden State, got into that system. You know, not being so much of the focal point of the team and just being able to fall into that Warriors system, that's when he really started to thrive.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfair. Andrew Wiggins was part of the Kevin Love trade, and he was expected to be the face of the franchise. And remember, that was Minnesota was in a really bad transitional period because they have been bad for a long, long time before he got there.
Yeah,
he gets there, and then Cat gets there shortly after. They make one playoff appearance together with Thibodeau, and it's the infamous year with Jimmy Butler going at them. But you said 3 of the 6 years he was there, he averaged over 20 points a game. In 5 of those 6 years, he at least averaged 17 points a game. So he was a very good player. It was just a bad situation. The team wasn't that good. I think when he got to Golden State, as you mentioned, you look his first year in Golden State, he averaged 19 a game as kind of their third option. But that's where he really found his niche as a really good 3-and-D defensive player who can give you some spot minutes as your focal point offensively. So he's probably more known for his impact on helping the Warriors win. But his 6 years in Minnesota, you look at the numbers, he was a good player in Minnesota. It was just a bad team.
Yeah. Let me go to Brandon Chambers. Suns fire Mike Budenholzer. Pelicans fire David Griffin. And his rumor Joe Dumars is the leader to replace David Griffin. I mean, I don't even know if replacing the GM is really the answer for the Pelicans. They you might have to just blow that team up, because we have still not. We've seen glimpses, but we still have not seen the Zion Williamson that was projected to be one of them ones coming out of Duke and, you know, entering the league. We still haven't seen that on a consistent enough basis, mostly because Zion is always hurt. And then again, they have maybe one of the most injury-plagued rosters in the NBA. You know, guys are always in and out of that lineup. So I don't even know if necessarily a change in management is going to be the answer for the Pelicans. Now, as far as the Suns go, yeah, they need to shake that up because the trades they have made since making it to the finals have really caused that team to now not even make the playoffs. How do you go from being in the finals and then you get Kevin Durant and now you're not even in the playoffs? You can't even make the play-in tournament. So yeah, for Phoenix, yeah, they need to shake that whole thing up.
Trip, this is one of my favorite subjects, Kevin Durant and head coaches. It could be its own podcast. Yeah, David Griffin, though, we'll start there with the Pelicans. It never worked. David Griffin was handed kind of a great opportunity when they got the Zion pick, and they already had Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, and somehow David Griffin never built anything realistic there, or stable, I should say, there. Joe Dumars has a tricky track record because people will point to him leading the Pistons to a finals. As the GM, he also helped orchestrate another team that got to the finals there. But after that, it was some poor management, big contracts for guys like Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva, and Detroit never was really relevant after those years with Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton and Ben Wallace. So Joe could be somebody who can come in and do something there. But again, his history and his success is really rooted in about a 3 to 4 year window in Detroit when they won an NBA championship. Now, as far as Coach Bud, I don't think Coach Bud was a good coach before he got to Phoenix. A lot of his success is rooted in what he was able to do with Giannis and winning NBA championship that year when most people will say the Bucks got a little lucky, right? Kyrie gets hurt in the second round of the playoffs. Kevin Durant, if his shoe size is a half size smaller, that's a 3 and not a 2, and Brooklyn beats them in that series. Also, before the injuries to Kyrie and James Harden, the Nets were blowing out the Bucks in that series in the first 2 games. You look back, I think they beat them by combined of almost 60 points in the first 2 games of that series. Then the injuries crept in and the Bucks were able to win. And then even in the NBA Finals, the Bucks lose the first 2 games to Phoenix, and then Phoenix, and specifically Chris Paul, pretty much fall apart the rest of that series. And Milwaukee ends up winning the next 4 and wins the championship. And that becomes Coach Bud's significant moment on his resume. But I want to talk about Kevin Durant because it's been asked here several times, Trip. Kevin Durant, is he good for winning? What's his legacy? His legacy is this. He gets coaches fired. He's been in the league now 15 years, Trip. I want to say 14, 15 years. He's going to be on his 10th different head coach. Now, some people will say, oh, well, early in his career when they wasn't winning with the Sonics in Oklahoma City, you can say that all you want. But he left the Warriors in 2019, 2020. Right, Trip? Mm-hmm. Since then, he's already had 6 different head coaches in the last 6 years. Kenny Atkinson, who's probably going to win Coach of the Year this year. Steve Nash, who was super underqualified, but that's who he wanted. Jacques Vaughn, who tried to bring discipline and structure to the Nets. He didn't want no part of it, so he left. And then Jacques Vaughn ultimately ended up getting fired by the Nets afterwards. But a lot of that is rooted in Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant didn't want to be there anymore. And so Brooklyn goes into a rebuild. Jacques Vaughn ends up on a chopping block. He gets to Phoenix. Monty Williams had just led the Suns to an NBA Finals 2 years earlier. He gets fired. Frank Vogel comes in. He's supposed to be the veteran leader. Frank Vogel won an NBA championship with the Lakers. KD doesn't want him. He gets fired. They bring in Coach Bud. Now Coach Bud gets fired. You're telling me Kevin Durant in 3 years in Phoenix is already going to be on his 4th different head coach if he stays in Phoenix next year? I don't want to hear about legacy and how great Kevin Durant is on the court because off the court, like I said, he is a franchise killer. And this is why I've said over and over again, I want no parts of him in New York. I know that's the rumor circulating around. I don't want to hear about legacy talk. As a player, yes, one of the most gifted players the game has ever seen. We know that. But this is who he is. If it's not his way, he's going to get you up out of there. And when you're not winning, to me, you can't justify this consistent turnover of coaches when the guy you can't even make a playing game. You're Kevin Durant. You're supposed to be a top 5, top 6 talent in the league. You can't even make a playing game. There's other teams with far less talent who are making playoffs, and you can't even make a playing game. But somehow this is Coach Bud's fault after 1 season. So for the Suns, they got a lot of work to do, and they're going to be bad for a very long time. That Bradley Beal contract, we knew it was terrible when it happened. Bradley Beal has a no-trade clause. He's not leaving Phoenix. Devin Booker might be on his way out as well, and it's going to be a complete rebuild, I think, in Phoenix.
That's going to be crazy because you done gave away all your draft capital to get Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. So, oh my goodness, that's going to be a tough one for Phoenix. They're going to be bad for a long time once this big three is ultimately broken up. We're gonna switch over to the NFL. But before we do that, let me just shout out the Dallas Wings. They drafted Paige. I mean, obviously we knew that was happening with the number one overall pick, so she will be in Dallas. Big shout out to Paige. Get money buckets, get bucks, Paige Buck, whatever you want to call it. Big shout out to her. She just signed that big deal as well, and she is officially your number one overall draft pick. Seattle picked second. They picked up Dominique Malanga, center from France, and Washington is on the clock next. They have the 3 and the 4 picks. So we'll update you guys on who goes third and fourth in the draft as those picks come in. But let's get to these NFL questions because I've seen them coming in. Shout out to Tyson first in the chat. Where do you want to see Shador be drafted? Well, you know where I want to see him be drafted. Number 3 overall pick to the New York Giants, and let that man be the future of the New York franchise. Maven be able to finesse that into getting Dion to come over someday, you know. But that's where I would like to see him be drafted. I'm hoping the Giants. I know the Giants picked up Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, but those are short-term fixes. As much as I love Russell Wilson and respect him as being a Super Bowl champion, Russell Wilson is in the latter part of his career right now, so he's not our quarterback of the future. Same thing with Jameis Winston. You know, good veteran backup, good locker room guy, but he's not our quarterback of the future. We still need our quarterback of the future, and if Shador is there at number 3, that needs to be the pick for the Giants. So I do hope they get that right.
Yeah, the Giants to me is probably the most fun spot because of Malik Neighbors and because of New York City. You pair him up there. I've said plenty of times I don't like him in Cleveland. I don't like him in Tennessee. Beyond that, obviously, he's not going to New England. He's not going to Jacksonville. Maybe the Raiders, but the Raiders. I mean, Raiders do have Brock Bowers, so it would be fun to see Shador with a talent like Brock Bowers that you could develop with. If it's the Jets, you're talking Garrett Wilson. You're talking Breece Hall. You're still talking New York. So those are probably my 3 most favorite. I saw Mel Kiper's one of his recent mock drafts. He had him falling as low as 9 to the Saints. Yeah. Now it makes sense because it looks like David Carr is going to be out for a significant amount of time next year. Mm-hmm. But I don't like the landing spot for him because the Saints are a little older in terms of their weapons offensively. Alvin Kamara is not the same player. So to go there, I mean, I'll be happy wherever Shador goes, but I just think either the New York teams or Vegas probably make the most sense and probably the most intriguing in terms of who he would have to throw the ball to.
Yeah. Speaking of the Raiders, Tyson wants to know, are they contenders with Gentry? They have a lot of work to do. And as much as I respect Gentry and what he's done at the collegiate level, and I do think he'll be able to reciprocate a lot of what he was able to do this past season at the next level, the Raiders are just not there. They have a lot of holes to fill. I don't even know who's their second receiver? Who's their, like, they don't have they I mean, obviously we know that we know the tight end
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers, but who's their receivers?
Jacoby Myers.
No disrespect, but next, who else we got?
They got the one white boy over there. I can't think of his name right now.
Exactly. They don't. Yeah. They're like the Chiefs wide receivers, where we would like they maybe have a third wide. Like their number 1 is really a number 3.
Well, the difference is the Chiefs have an all-time great at quarterback.
Yes,
so you can make up for the shortcomings of your receiving core when you have an all-time great at quarterback.
Yeah, they do not have that.
Yeah.
So
no disrespect to Geno.
Yeah. But now he will help because anytime I'm not. Before y'all jump out the window, I'm not comparing him to Saquon or Derrick Henry, but I am saying that a good running back can lift your franchise, but you also have to have other pieces in place. They don't have enough of the other pieces in place to where even if, let's say, Gentry comes out, winds up being offensive rookie of the year, runs some 1,800 yards and 12 touchdowns, they still don't have enough to really make an impact like that to do anything special come playoff time, if they can even make the playoffs. Because we see guys have elite seasons all the time and the teams don't make the playoffs. How many times have we seen a running back run for 1,400 yards and the team hasn't made the playoffs? It happens. So that they just don't have enough right now with the Raiders. They're still in the rebuild mode.
Yeah.
Now they did have a receiver a couple of years ago, but obviously he's in behind the wall right now because bad decision making.
I'll say this, Tyson. I appreciate the comment, but before we call them contenders, let's ask the realistic question: Can they be competitive within their own division? Because last time I checked, they're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix. Geno Smith is their quarterback. So if we're just ranking the quarterbacks, they probably got the third or fourth quarterback in the division. He's not better than Herbert. He's definitely not better than Mahomes. In terms of coaches, Pete Carroll was a good head coach, good track record. But I would never take Pete Carroll over Andy Reid. I would never take him over Sean Payton. I would never take him over John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh, right? Absolutely. So you've got the fourth best head coach within your own division. So if we're going to say they're contenders just because they get Genty, you're telling me that they're going to jump over three teams that are playoff caliber teams that were all in the playoffs last year just because they add Genty. I don't see it. Genty will help them. It gives them another good foundational piece with him and Brock Bowers. And now if you can shore up that offensive line, and like I said, whether you get the quarterback this year or next year, you're still going to need a long-term answer because I don't think Geno Smith is your answer beyond the next 2 seasons. It's a 3-year contract with Geno, but really they're playing it for 2 years, hoping to find the eventual replacement. So he makes them a little bit more respectable. But in terms of contenders, like I say, you can't be a contender when you're probably the fourth best team in your own division. So to me, I'm going to have to say no.
There you go. Ray, what's going on, my brother? Aaron Rodgers remained unsigned. Is he still a lock for the Steelers? Maybe somebody has noticed what we've been saying the past couple of weeks, where we haven't seen MVP or anything remotely close to MVP level Aaron Rodgers in the since he left Green Bay, and they're just being a little more cautious. I read something earlier where they had Shador working out for Pittsburgh. So I think if Aaron Rodgers wants to play, he'll wind up landing somewhere. At this point, the only spot that really makes sense, because all the other jobs are taken, would be Pittsburgh. But again, we have not seen anything remotely close to MVP level Aaron Rodgers, and what we have seen over the past 2 years has been bad. So, should Pittsburgh really be in a rush to sign Aaron Rodgers? I know they're going to need something, but hey, listen, maybe this might be the year where Pittsburgh just going to have to tank it away and look for a quarterback in next year's draft class. Who knows? Or, they do draft late, so they, maybe they could, maybe they go after Jalen Milroe, who will probably be available, when they pick, because I think this isn't a real deep quarterback class. But there's a couple of guys maybe you could get later in the draft. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers lands with the Steelers, and if he does, I don't even know how effective he can be at this point.
We've highlighted it several times. The Steelers probably make the most sense if Aaron Rodgers wants to at least be competitive and be on a team that has playoff aspirations. They've got the weapons already in place. I just think the Steelers are playing this the right way. There's no need to rush, because realistically, what's the market for Aaron Rodgers at this point? There isn't one. The Vikings were one of the teams that people thought. The Vikings already said they're out. The Giants went another direction. Every other team that is looking for a quarterback is waiting to see how the draft is going to play out. So if you're the Steelers, there's no need to rush and sign you. Let's see. Yeah. Like you said, maybe a quarterback drops. Maybe Shador does start to slide. I believe it was Tyson who said in weeks past that, could he slide in the draft? Maybe if Shador does start to slide, the Steelers are able to move up and just get Shador, and they don't have to worry about bringing in a veteran like Aaron Rodgers. But ultimately, you play it out. You see what happens next week at the draft. And if you don't land the quarterback you want, Aaron Rodgers will still be there. And that's proof right now, because if somebody wanted Aaron Rodgers, they would have signed him already.
Yeah. So it is what it is. We will see. Let me go to Brandon Chambers because I'm gonna tell you about these next two picks really quick. He says WNBA draft is tonight at 7:30. Paige is going to Dallas. Can Paige come in the WNBA and be all world right away? I think she can come in and have the impact that Caitlin Clark had this past season. I think she will be rookie of the year if she stays healthy. She's definitely box office. We know that. We know arenas are going to be sold out across the country to see Paige when she comes into town. I'm almost a little bit tight because the game I went to last year where I was sitting on the floor was the Liberty versus Dallas. So I'm almost a little tight right now that I'm just a year away from having floor seats to watch Paige play at the Barclays Center. But yeah, she is all of that. And I think Paige is going to be a problem in the WNBA.
Paige is going to be amazing. We know that. A complete player. I highlighted it recently where I said, is she going to come in right away and dominate offensively? No, but she is a complete player and a good defensive player. Yeah, she's a good defensive player as well as having the offensive skills to be an impact player right away. So she's going to be phenomenal, man. And I think the league, the WNBA specifically, is in a great place right now with the draft class from last year. And now you bring in Paige Buckers into this class. So it's going to be a good WNBA season.
Really quick, Washington used their two. I just realized Washington got they got picks 3, 4, and 6, but they take Sonia Citron out of Notre Dame, shooting guard, and they take Juju's teammate from USC, Kiki Arifin, power forward. So they looking to make some moves over there, man. They got a couple of picks. So they can make some things happen. Maybe they'll be in the playoffs this year with the help of those rookies. Let me see what else we got here on the timeline. Let me go back a couple of NBA questions. More of a shout out. Shout out to Jokic, third player ever to average a triple double in a season. I mean, what did you expect, man? That's what he does. He does this. It's Jokic. That's what he does, man. Congratulations to the big man. I know they got a little controversy going on over there with them getting rid of Mike Malone the way they did. But I mean, he's all world. He's one of the greats. He's one of them ones, and you got to put respect on that man's name.
Amazing season. I guess it probably even looks better when you consider all of the drama that was taking place behind the scenes that we didn't know about. To then fire your head coach with like 5 games left in a year, and he was not only averaged a triple double, he was second in steals. So like he was dominating in all facets of the game, and we love to talk about guys who can impact the game. He was impacting the game as much as he could for that team. So an amazing season. I know people will say, how isn't he the MVP? I think he's the best player in the league, but MVP doesn't always go to the best player in the league. MVP is a narrative-based award, and you can't overlook what Shea has done this season as the number 1 scorer in the league and as the best player on the best team in the NBA. There was a stat they flashed the other day, and not to compare the two, but they had flashed a stat with if Shea didn't even play in any fourth quarter this year, Shea would have still averaged over 30 points a game. That's how crazy of a season. He historically is one of the greatest seasons that we've seen from a guard, and again in the history of the NBA. So Joker's just been phenomenal. Maybe we're spoiled, Trip. Maybe we expect too much from the guy now that we just take it for granted.
Well, I mean, listen, averaging a triple double ain't no joke. No matter who does it. There's only 2 other guys that have done it. One of them being his teammate, actually Russell Westbrook. The other one being Oscar Robinson. So he's in very elite company. You can't do nothing but tip your hat to Jokic. He is one of them ones, and he is the best player currently in basketball. It just sucks that team is dealing with what they're dealing with right now. Okay. Ray says the Clippers may be scary the way Kawhi is playing, and their team is playing some of the best ball. Yes, they are. They are playing really well, as quiet as it's kept. And this is they. I don't want to say they've been flying under the radar, but they kind of have been under the radar because we're not talking. They're not one of the teams that we've been talking about this season like that. But they have been trucking along. They play some very good basketball. Obviously, healthy Kawhi is still one of the best players in the NBA. They have not missed a beat after the Paul George trade. In fact, they have gotten better since that that Paul George trade. James Harden, again, I mentioned earlier about me watching that game against Golden State the other night. James Harden, okay, he was looking really good this season. Now, how well he does in the playoffs, I don't know, because we know history tells us James is going to be good until about halfway through the second round of the playoffs. So I can't speak to that, but as far as what they've been doing as of late, if Kawhi can keep those guys playing at that level, they're going to give a couple of teams some problems in the playoffs.
Shout out to Ray because this is one of the most accurate statements and comments that we've gotten, not only today but in a while. It's true. They are going to be scary. They're not. They may not be scary. They are scary. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing that I didn't hear you mention that, Trip. Talk about how great Kawhi's playing. Harden probably found his best role right now as a distributor. Zubac is going to be up for Defense Player of the Year, and Zubac has been great this year. But Ty Lue is an amazing head coach, and this matchup with Denver is perfect for them because Denver's in shambles right now. Outside of Joker, Denver can't seem to find a second guy who can consistently contribute. And now you're asking a head coach who just took over the job last week to have to prepare his team for battle in what's going to be a tough playoff series. The Clippers were 15-3 in their last 18 games. We talk about getting hot and building momentum. That's exactly how you do it. And if this is the healthiest Kawhi has been since he's been with the Clippers, this is a really good supporting cast. On paper, it doesn't jump out at you because there aren't many other name guys or all-stars. We know about Harden, but he's not the guy. He's not the Harden MVP caliber Harden from his Houston days. But again, Zubac has been amazing this year. Norman Powell. There's a lot of good players on this team that I think this team not only can give Denver a tough time in the first round, but I think that potential second round matchup against Oklahoma City is going to be very good for them as well. Kawhi knows how to close out games. Defensively, they're good, and they've got one of the better head coaches in all of the NBA. They're going to be a tough matchup as long as they're in the playoffs. If Kawhi is healthy, I expect them to beat Denver.
Yeah, mentally, I don't know where Denver is going to be at coming into the playoffs. I know they finished off the season all right, but going into the playoffs now, and you got to come out the gate, against a very hot Clippers team, and let's not act like Kawhi ain't one of the ones now. You know what I mean? So, and they play their rotation is good. You mentioned Zubac being a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. That's big for them. And then James Harden facilitating in weight, like they are going to be a tough team to beat. They're going to give Denver all of the headaches that they can handle. And when you have someone, because Kawhi's not going to be guarding Jokic, all right. But when you have someone who can lock up Michael Porter Jr., which Kawhi can absolutely do, or he can also guard Jamal Murray, on occasion. Those guys are going to have to step up. I don't know if they'll be able to do that with this team playing the way they're playing. So I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna have some good series in this first round of the playoffs, especially in the Western Conference. We're gonna get some really good first round series. So I am looking forward to that. Hold on, I see something over here. Y'all, what's this about Jaden Daniels? Let me just see if there's any other NBA questions, and I'm gonna post that Jaden Daniels one in just a second that just came in. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Tyson says Jaden Daniels was at a wedding and his mama was right behind him while she ain't gonna listen. As his mama, we love our mamas. We ain't gonna disrespect nobody's mama. Only thing I'm gonna say is, Mama, is that's a grown man, and sometimes you gotta let grown men be grown men, and you gotta trust that you did your job.
Yeah, it's comical at this point, man. Shout out to moms. I know she's looking out for his best interest, but it is getting comical now with the him sitting courtside next to Juju, and now video of him dancing and the mom is right behind him. At some point, that's a grown man. You got to give him a space. You got to allow him to enjoy himself, and it's gonna get that. Shout out to Tyson on the next thing. I was about to say it's weird at this point because I talked about it when the video surfaced of him and Juju. When I'm like, it's kind of odd that this guy on his day off is also just hanging around his mom. We're not talking a family function. We're not talking some award ceremony. We're talking about just your off day, kicking back, hanging out, and you're around your mom. Like at some point, let the kid get his space. Let him do his thing.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, because again, we're not even. This is not even like because Jaden James is what 25.
Yeah.
So this is, you know what I mean?
25.
I could understand if we were talking about, if he was 21. But at 25, it's like, come on, man. Y'all think he's getting to no. He might be, he just might be. I don't know. I can't say. But like I said, I just feel like at some point, parents, you got to trust that you did good by your children. You know what I mean? That's all I can say, because I don't know the dynamic of their relationship. You know what I mean? But from someone who has had ups and downs with their mom, and because sometimes moms can be controlling. You know what I mean? But like I said, you just got to trust that you did the right thing. You raised them right. You raised them to know better. It's, certain things. So you got to trust that.
Yeah, like I said, it is weird. I agree with Tyson. It's weird at this point.
It was a video that was at a game, and she told him to get off his. Tyson got all in. It is like, yeah, like listen. I can't call it. I don't know. Let me go back to the top because I see Miguel had a question up here. Tennessee moves from starting QB Nico Lamaleu. I mean, I don't know what to say that that's the decision they made. It happens. Guys get benched all the time, so that I don't really have too much to say on it. But yeah, how my man said in Paid in Full, you get shot every day,
B. You be all right. You tough, right?
What are we talking about here? Like it is what it is. Let me get this last comment out the way, and then we're gonna jump into the final thought segment. Did I just lose it? Where am I going right now? Hold on. Notice. Oh, here we go. Shout out to Imani. Yeah, we're gonna finish off the show with Imani. That's one of our faves. She's been rocking with us for a minute. I noticed over the years, most of the number one picks in the WNBA always usually win Rookie of the Year. I'm sure it's a few years the first pick didn't live up to the hype. In the men's game, it's a ton of first picks that don't live up to it. Yeah, we're seeing that right now. Once again, we're seeing that this season because we spoke about Rookie of the Year. Not myself nor Eric mentioned the number one pick in this year's draft. So
number one or the number two pick.
Or the number two. Because when was he picked? Because he wasn't even in the top.
Stephon Castle. No, he was a lottery pick. Stephon Castle.
But I mean, he wasn't in the top 5 though. The Spurs didn't pick in the top 5.
No. He wasn't top 5.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it happens. But yeah, I don't. You know what it is? I think because in the NBA, there's a lot more teams picking. There's a lot more chance that you can get it wrong. And in the WNBA, yeah, you can. But even with these players, all right, let's take the number one pick in this year's draft, right? No one was talking about the number one pick in this draft coming into the draft. Like generally, the guys that are really talked about as number one picks usually live up to the hype. It's the ones where it's like them down years where it could go either way. that's when we see it'll be like this year where it's like, all right, he's the number one pick, and maybe he could be good, but there's a chance he could not be good. And that's what we saw this year, where it was just like, you know, all right. Like I'm not even the type of person. I try to give players 3 years before I really say whether or not I feel like they're a bust. So but average year by the number one overall pick in the NBA draft this year, average year. Whereas on the other side of that, we know Caitlin Clark lit things up.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the biggest difference in the two dynamics is that in the women's game, a lot of these young ladies are more of a finished product in terms of a basketball player.
Yeah.
Right. Most of them have been in college for 3 years, 4 years. So they've got an opportunity to like kind of define their game and have really good understanding of who they are as players. Whereas in the NBA is really rooted in drafting on potential. What I think this guy's going to be by the time he's 24, 25. What I expect him to be. That's why we see these player comps. It'll be a 19-year-old guy who played 1 year college, and it's like, but they're already comparing him to a proven veteran, right? He reminds me of this guy. It's like, no, he doesn't remind you of that guy yet. His game is not that, but you're expecting that his potential will live up to that comparison. So to me, that's the biggest difference. In the men's game, there's going to be a lot of bust at number one because there isn't enough film, and sometimes there's not enough games played by these guys. Remember when Kyrie was the number one pick coming out of Duke? Kyrie played, I think, 13 games at Duke. There wasn't enough. Now Kyrie's a very unique talent, but there was no way somebody could tell me that they were willing to bet the house on Kyrie being an all-star when he had only played 13 games at Duke. On the flip side, we talked about it last week, Zion, there was so much hype around Zion coming out because we thought Zion was the second coming, of a LeBron James. And he played more games at Duke, and it hasn't lived up to that. Zion's a good player, but it never lived up to that hype. The NBA is rooted more in potential and hype. The WNBA, I think, is a more refined product where you see the young ladies who have now defined their game. Paige Buckers is a prime example of that. 5 years at UConn. Caitlin Clark, 4 years at Iowa. These are defined products. These are young women who know their game and they're coming in with a different level of IQ, a different level of maturity as opposed to the NBA game.
Yeah, because for the most part, these guys are one and done.
One and done.
Right. Even though I know we heard the talks about maybe Cooper Flagg might want to go back to Duke. You know what I'm saying? There's a good chance he's gonna be in the draft as the number one.
But he gotta be. He gotta be in the draft. And like I said, that goes for any young man. That's not to say, guys should come back. You're never gonna be better than number one.
Yeah. So if you're at that point, you gotta go.
You gotta go. If you got and even if you got a chance to be number 5 in the draft, you gotta go because there's too many variables that could stop you from getting back to that point again.
Because now, what happens if you get a career-ending injury? God forbid, you went back, and that's it. It's over. At least if you get drafted, you get that first contract. If you have a career-ending injury, you still got that contract. It's NBA money, so you're good. But other than that, yeah, man, you kind of have to go. But I agree with you. Everything you said with the ladies. For the most part, none of the ladies are coming out before 3 years. You know what I mean? Doesn't happen in the WNBA. So by the time they are ready to come out, they've already garnered a certain level of maturity. They've learned a lot. They've learned how to enhance on their strengths and how to kind of shrink their weaknesses. So there is a big difference. When you think about it like that. But Eric, give us a final thought.
As always, appreciate the support as you guys rock with us every week. You guys really bring a lot of life and energy to the show, and we greatly appreciate it. I want to end it off by sending out thoughts and prayers to the family of Kyron Lacey, the young man from LSU who tragically took his life on Saturday. Just a very tragic turn in his life and in his career path from just last year. A very sad video that's circulating of him FaceTiming Jaden Daniels, who we talked about earlier, and Malik Neighbors, who were his teammates at LSU. And towards the end of the video, Jaden Daniels says, "It's going to be you next year, bro." And so just to see how things have changed, I'm not excusing his behavior back in December of the car accident. I'm not excusing that he left the scene. I'm not saying any of those things. But it's very unfortunate whenever someone young loses their life, and in this case, takes their life. We talk a lot about mental health on the show. There were some things leading up to that moment where his family members had called the police because he was showing a gun at the house, and he had fired off a shot in front of the family. So again, thoughts and prayers to his family for what they're dealing with right now. And again, mental health is real, man. Guys, find someone to confide in, find somebody that you can speak to, and just never find yourself in that type of situation, because one of the beauties in life is when you get to live long enough, you start to realize you can overcome anything you go through. Any obstacle in front of you, you're going to find a way to get around that, man. So again, thoughts and prayers to his family.
Absolutely. Check in on your friends.
Absolutely.
Even the strong ones, or the ones you think is strong, because sometimes the ones you think is strong be the ones holding on to the most.
Yep.
So check in on your friends. I mean, Eric and I speak damn near every day, but I've been trying to make it a habit of mine to check in on the people that I don't speak to as much as we speak, just because I know people are dealing with so many different battles that we know nothing about, because everyone wants to be strong and not show weakness, so they don't always talk about what's going on. So just check in on your friends and your family whenever you can. With that being said, I'm just going to take my final thought. I'm going to shout out the next couple of draft selections for the WNBA, and then we're going to wrap things up. Shout out to the Golden State Valkyries. This is their first season in the WNBA. So they took Jusai from Lithuania. Washington took Georgia Moore, point guard out of Kentucky. And the next two picks were Anisha Morrow and Sanaya Rivers out of North Carolina State. And Anisha Morrow went to LSU. So shout out to all of the ladies. Congratulations to every woman that will be featured in this year's WNBA draft. Congratulations. I wish you all a great, long, prosperous career in the WNBA. With that being said, make sure you guys are following us on all our social media: Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk, and of course, subscribe to that YouTube channel, YouTube.com/For the Fans Productions. And if you're not in the New York City area and you can't watch us Thursday nights from 8 to 9 p.m., don't worry, you can watch us from anywhere in the world. Just hit up that website, realfansrealtalk.com. There's a red button right on the homepage. You click that button, you can watch from anywhere in the world. And make sure you guys subscribe to the two best podcasts moving. That's the Sanchez Show and the Real Fans Real Talk podcast. We got a lot of things that's gonna be coming up over the next couple of months. So stay tuned. We're gonna have Haram back with us soon. He's gonna start bringing over a couple of the guests that'll be at Ballin' for Peace, playing in the celebrity game. So be on the lookout for that. And with that being said, for myself, Trip Young, my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in 2 Games, we up out of here. Peace. Lakers in 5.
This is Deion Grant from the New York Giants, Super Bowl champ, and you're watching Real Fans Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the king.
This is Real Fans Real Talk. Real Fans Real Talk. We as real as you thought. Real